Concerns about the possibility of Election Day violence sparking security preparations in a key battleground state. Peter Ducey live in Cleveland with that story. Peter.
John, the Sheriff's Department told us yesterday on Tuesday they're going to have a special impact unit standing by to make sure that nothing gets unruly or violent at polling places. This impact unit was also on call for this summer's RNC here in Cleveland, and as part of the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department's community policing wing. They normally back up local police as they do surveillance or canvass neighborhoods or set up checkpoints while searching for suspects. In this case, they're going to be waiting to get a call about any people or groups that may be trying to interfere with residents trying to cast ballots. And right now we're told the main area of concern are long lines that could grow into unruly crowds.
American officials told NBC News the U.S. government believes hackers from Russia or elsewhere may try to undermine next week's presidential election and is mounting an unprecedented effort to counter their cyber meddling. The effort is being coordinated by the White House and the Department of Homeland Security. Current and former officials say it reaches across the government to include the CIA, the National Security Agency, and other elements of the Defense Department. Intelligence officials say Russia has been warned that any effort to manipulate the actual voting or vote counting would be viewed as a serious breach. Michael McFaul, the U.S. ambassador to Russia from 2012 to 2014, said the Russians are in an offensive mood and the U.S. is working on strategies to respond to that and at the highest levels.
The Clinton campaign has said that Russia is behind all of this. It says that Russia has manipulated the campaign and is the source for WikiLeaks and its emails.
Hillary Clinton stated multiple times, falsely, that 17 US intelligence agencies had assessed that Russia was the source of our publications. Okay, that's false. I actually feel quite sorry for Hillary Clinton as a person. Because I see someone who is eaten alive by their ambitions, tormented, literally to the point where they become sick. You know, they faint as a result of going on with their ambition.
Worst case scenario, I'm saying that, you know, depending on who gets office, I mean, there's going to be people upset everywhere, but there's going to be rioting. I don't know. Like, once again, you never know until it actually happens. I'm saying you don't know. You only hope for the best. And I'm saying I hope nothing like that happens, but I'm saying there's always that possibility.
With Hillary on one hand, we have to worry about our rights, everything else, you know, guns, because I got a feeling first thing she's gonna do is start putting more and more restrictions on our firearms. And it's gonna be damn near impossible for us to be able to bear arms anymore. And Trump, I'm just worried he's gonna stir up the population and cause riots and mayhem.
The idea of a militia has, waned in the last 200 years, but we're here to revive the spirit of 1776 and let everybody know that it's your right, it's your duty as a citizen of the United States of America to be able, one, to defend your person and your property, but also to work with other like-minded people to protect your country, for the security of a free state. A well-armed militia is necessary.
A UK court has ruled that the government cannot trigger negotiations to leave the European Union without a vote from Parliament.
I'm going to make a statement on behalf of our client, Mr. Santos. I've never challenged the result of the referendum. In fact, I voted for Brexit in the referendum for the sole reason that I wanted power to be returned from Europe to the British Parliament. But I did not think it was right for the government then just to bypass Parliament.
The move dealt a blow to Prime Minister Theresa May's plans following the UK's decision to leave the bloc. The government said it would appeal the ruling.
Mr. Speaker, the government is disappointed by the court's judgment. The country voted to leave the European Union in a referendum approved by Act of Parliament. The government is determined to respect the result of the referendum. This judgment raises important and complex matters of law, and it's right that we consider it carefully before deciding how to proceed.
Some political experts suggest the ruling will give pro-EU lawmakers an opportunity to steer the country towards a softer exit, with more ties to the bloc and a more open immigration policy.
Are you afraid? Are you afraid? Are you afraid? We're not afraid. We're not afraid. No matter what.
Young people living in the 19-country Eurozone face the worst economic prospects for several generations, according to trade unions and bodies representing employers. The latest data from Eurostat, the EU's statistical office, shows that youth unemployment is out of control in several Eurozone countries. We spoke to some young people about the crisis.
Very, very bad, really bad. It's like everybody knows somebody that lose a job, there are people losing houses, families losing houses.
It's quite depressing for us to think that, for example, as for me, I'm studying a degree and I'm nearly certain that I'm not going to find a job when I'm done with it.
The latest data, which pertains to September, shows that there are 2.8 million adults under the age of 25 who are unemployed in the Eurozone. In Greece, the youth unemployment rate is running at a massive 42.7%. In Spain, it's 42.6%, and in Italy, 37.1%.
Pensioners in Greece have taken to the streets to protest against new pension cuts. The reductions are part of the austerity package the government agreed to with international lenders. More than 4,000 pensioners rallied outside the Ministry of Labour in Athens. My pension's been cut in half, says this man. If the Labour minister can live on the money we're getting, then he should come down here and tell us. It's not only today they're cutting our pensions, says this woman. They're being reduced all the time. Since 2010, our pensions have collapsed, both the main payment and the supplementary pensions.
Well, there's a new study that shows global prosperity has hit new highs, but it wasn't driven by the United States, which used to rank number 3 in 2007. Then we ranked number 10 in 2010. But in this particular report, we landed with a thud at number 17. Now, despite the ranking number 1 in business, the U.S. fell to 52nd in terms of safety and security, 32 in health. Two issues, of course, that bleed into this election, very key issues.
A new survey has offered a rare peek into life inside North Korea. It found North Koreans often tell jokes and make critical remarks about the government in non-public spaces. Conducted by the Center for Strategic and International Studies and released on Wednesday, the poll found all but one of the 36 respondents said their family, friends or neighbours complain or make jokes about the government in private. The centre said the finding is unusual as criticism of the regime is a serious crime punishable by imprisonment or even death. The think tank did not reveal how or when the survey was conducted.
Now, for the first time ever, South Korea and the U.S. Marines conducted a joint drill to prepare for the, possibility of a massive exodus from refugees from North Korea.
South Korea and the U.S. Marines conducted a joint exercise on Thursday to prepare for a possible exodus of North Korean refugees in the event of a conflict on the Korean peninsula. This is the first drill of its kind by the two allies, and they focused on possible scenarios that could accommodate and provide humanitarian assistance to large numbers of people fleeing a collapsed North Korean regime. Around 130 U.S. soldiers and specialists with experience in refugee assistance gained in Afghanistan also took part in the drill. The exercise is part of the Seoul, Washington annual nationwide Hoguk joint drills, which aim at enhancing interoperability between the two allies. This year's ongoing Hoguk is scheduled to run through November 10th. In a separate exercise also part of Hoguk, the two countries' Marines took part in an amphibious landing drill off the coast of the southeastern city of Pohang. South Korean Marines deployed for the first time a 17,000-ton civilian deck carrier with more than 2,600 soldiers and some 300 military heavy firepower and equipment on board. The amphibious operation exercise, which will be held until November 6th, has the goal of preparing forces to speedily deploy equipment and soldiers to rough coastlines or where facilities are lacking or have been destroyed.
On Wednesday, reports say that an inspector at a Moscow Perovo train station checked the cargo that arrived on Monday in the town of Oryol, only to find that one of the railroad cars had tons of explosives. An ongoing investigation conducted by Federal Security Service is attempting to figure out what many unguarded explosives were doing in a city of more than 12 million people. The Ministry of Defense reported that the carriage with 7 tons of explosive ammunition traveled from the far east of Russia all the way to Moscow without any special escort to protect it. This has brought up the discussion of the lack of security along thousands of miles of Russian railroad and the lack of professionalism from high-tier military officers.
Experts are warning that Israel is unprepared for not only natural disasters but also potential man-made disasters like cyber attacks. Seismologists say the country is located above a major geological fault line and that at least 17 major tremors have rocked the region over the past 2,000 years. They're cautioning that the next devastating earthquake could strike at any time. According to data the Knesset is receiving from the National Emergency Authority, Israel isn't ready to cope with the thousands of deaths or billions of dollars in damage such a disaster could cause. The authority wants the government to hurry up and quake-proof all buildings over 3 stories high and built before 1980. Of the 80,000 buildings meeting that criteria, so far only 2,700 have been approved for reinforcement, and most of those are in Tel Aviv, while almost none in other major cities have been touched. The Knesset subcommittee dealing with all the readiness issues says that far more resources need to be allocated now rather than waiting until the catastrophe strikes.
Now, the second-in-command of the Islamic Revolution Guards Corps says Iran can target U.S. interests anywhere in the world if needs be. Brigadier General Hossein Salami made the remark while addressing demonstrators outside the former U.S. Embassy. He said the U.S. is no longer a superpower, is not able to take military action against another nation.
Thousands of protesters have rallied in the Iranian capital to mark the anniversary of the takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. The demonstration saw activists chant "Death to America" and other anti-U.S. slogans. Protests are held every year in front of Washington's former diplomatic seat in Iran, which was seized 37 years ago. We're here to chant slogans, and our slogans are a strong punch in the face of America. America can never touch our country, and as our leader said, America can't do a damn thing. The protest also saw the burning of US and Israeli flags, as well as a giant Star of David. The anniversary marks the moment Iranian students stormed the embassy on November 4th, 1979. During the seizure, they took 52 Americans hostage for 440 days, after Washington refused to hand over Iran's toppled Shah.
Police and protesters clashed again in North Dakota, near the Dakota Access Pipeline construction site. Tensions escalated Wednesday as police prevented protesters from building a makeshift bridge over a river to gain access to private property near the site. The protesters say they are protecting Lake Oahe, a culturally important location to the Standing Rock Sioux tribe.
They kept telling us to leave. I kept telling them, no, we're not going to leave. He just opened up his can of mace on us. Just right there, right in my face.
In recent weeks, both sides have been accusing each other of provoking violence. And hundreds of people have held demonstrations around the U.S.
On Thursday, over 500 clergy from different faiths and from around the world came together to stand with Dakota Access Oil Pipeline protesters. The groups came together for an interfaith event in which hymns were sung and a Native American elder burned a 600-year-old document which sanctioned the taking of the Native Americans' land. The event is meant to try and draw attention to the Standing Rock Sioux tribe's concerns, hoping that officials will finally listen and stop the $3.8 billion construction of the oil pipeline in southern North Dakota.
A car bomb has rocked the Turkish city of Diyarbakir, reportedly killing at least one person and wounding dozens more. It happened near a police building in a central district. The blast coming after the overnight arrests of leaders of the pro-Kurdish HDP and other party politicians. The governor's office in Diyarbakir, the largest city in the mainly Kurdish southeast, says militants from the Kurdistan Workers' Party, or PKK, are believed to be behind the attack. Turkey's been in a state of emergency since a failed coup in July. A subsequent purge has seen thousands of public sector workers fired or suspended.
New research suggests that proteins in your gut may inhibit a bacteria known to cause salmonella. The study from the University of California at Irvine found that gut microbes that secreted special proteins played a significant role in blocking the illness-causing bacteria inside the inflamed intestine. Salmonella is characterized by intestinal inflammation, abdominal cramps, fever, and diarrhea. The research team is hopeful their results will lead to improved treatments for the disease.
The Ebola epidemic that engulfed West Africa in 2013 is still somewhat of an enigma to scientists. Now, 2 studies raise another possibility of what contributed to the epidemic. They show that approximately 3 months after the outbreak began, the virus mutated, making it better suited for humans than its natural host, the species of fruit bat. Co-author of one of the papers, Pardis Sabeti, stated, "The virus has never had this many human-to-human transmissions before, and there are a lot of mutations happening." Sabeti said the compelling evidence has been amassed that for the first time connects a mutation in the virus to a preference for human cells. The team writes that the findings raise the possibility that this mutation contributed directly to greater transmission and thus to the severity of the outbreak.
When you think Siberia, you think faraway place. It has very little to do with me here in North America. It is a part of Russia. It is cold. It is all these things, but it actually has everything to do with our winter weather. Say what? Yeah. When we have a lot of snowpack in Siberia, that actually has an impact on a cold winter spell in the U.S. Now, we already have a lot of snow in Siberia. Some areas saw nearly 10 feet fall in just 3 days. So this icy mass, it has a lot to do with what happens here. It's called the Polar Express, and we're not talking about the choo-choo train. We're talking about some cold air that makes its way through Alaska and then really impacts kind of those northern states, the Great Lakes, the Northeast, not so much the West, but this is definitely a pattern to watch this winter.